Opening script hook. Have you ever noticed how sometimes a single sentence can change the entire direction of a person's life? Let me share with you a story. There was once a poor man who lived in a small village. Every morning, he would go to the market with just enough coins in his pocket to buy a single loaf of bread. That bread was his hope, his survival, and often the only thing he could look forward to. He lived in a cycle of scarcity, always chasing after the next meal, the next day, the next bit of security. But one morning, something unexpected happened. As he walked past the crowded stalls, he overheard a monk speaking to a group of people. The monk's words were simple, almost ordinary, but they pierced the man's heart. True wealth does not begin with gold or silver. It begins with a grateful heart. At first, the man scoffed. How could gratitude fill his stomach? How could saying thank you put clothes on his back? Yet those words lingered in his mind like a melody he couldn't forget. And slowly, almost without realizing it, he began to experiment. He started giving thanks for the bread he did have, for the air in his lungs, for the sun rising faithfully every morning. He even whispered gratitude for his struggles, because they were teaching him endurance. And something remarkable happened. His face began to soften, his energy shifted, and people noticed. A shopkeeper gave him a little extra fruit one day. A stranger offered him work the next. Within a year, the same man who once only dreamed of a loaf of bread had built a small, but steady life, not because coins magically fell from the sky, but because gratitude transformed his mind, his choices, and the way the world responded to him. This story is not just about that man, it's about all of us. How often do we chase after more money, more recognition, more security, believing that only then will we feel rich? And yet, how often do we overlook the treasures already sitting quietly in our hands? Think about it. What if real wealth was not measured by the size of our bank account, but by the depth of our appreciation? What if a grateful heart could actually attract abundance, opportunities, relationships, even health, because it shifts the way we see and interact with the world? Modern science even supports this. Studies on gratitude show that people who practice it regularly experience lower stress, stronger relationships, and a greater sense of well-being. Gratitude literally rewires the brain to notice possibilities instead of problems. Doesn't that sound like a kind of wealth that no one can steal from you? So today, I want to take you through 10 doors, 10 ways gratitude can open the treasure house of your inner life. Each of these doors is not about adding something from the outside, but about awakening something that's already inside you. You see, wealth is not just about possession, it's about perception. And the moment we begin to see with grateful eyes, our life transforms from scarcity to abundance. So, let me ask you, what are you grateful for, right now, in this very moment? Not tomorrow, not when things are perfect, but right here, with whatever you have, however life looks. Because maybe, just maybe, the first step toward the richest life you could ever live begins not with earning more, but with saying 2 simple words: thank you. Gratitude for life itself. Every single morning, when we open our eyes, we are witnessing a miracle that most of us forget to notice. Think about it, before you even take your first sip of coffee, before you check your phone, before you step into the rush of the day, life itself has already given you the greatest gift. Another chance to breathe, to love, to experience, to simply be. It sounds so simple, almost too ordinary to celebrate. But isn't it true that the most precious treasures are often the ones we take for granted? The warmth of sunlight spilling through the window, the rhythm of our breath moving in and out without effort, the beating of our heart keeping time like an unseen drummer. None of these are guaranteed, and yet here they are, faithfully carrying us into a new day. The Buddha once said, "To be born as a human being is rare, like the blooming of the udumbra flower, which blossoms only once in 1,000 years." That teaching reminds us, existence itself is not something we should see as automatic or ordinary. It's rare. It's precious. And when we begin to see it that way, even the act of waking up in the morning feels like winning the lottery of life. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you paused, right at the beginning of your day, and simply said to yourself, "Thank you, I am alive"? Not for achievements, not for possessions, but for the sheer fact that you've been gifted one more sunrise. It's a practice so small, yet it shifts everything. Suddenly, the complaints about traffic, deadlines, or bills lose their weight. They don't disappear, but they no longer define your entire reality. Science even echoes this wisdom. Studies show that starting the day with gratitude lowers stress and increases overall happiness. Gratitude for life itself sets the tone, creating a mindset that sees opportunities instead of obstacles. And the truth is, a grateful heart naturally attracts abundance, because it changes the way you interact with every moment and every person. Imagine two people walking into the same day. One wakes up irritated, already thinking of problems. The other pauses for just 30 seconds, takes a deep breath, and says, "I'm thankful for this breath, this body, this life." Who do you think will experience more richness, even if their circumstances are the same? Gratitude doesn't erase challenges, but it transforms the lens through which we see them. In my own journey, I've found that the mornings I begin with this awareness, thanking life itself, are the days that flow with more ease, more clarity, and even unexpected blessings. It's as if life responds to our acknowledgement by opening more doors. So, I invite you to reflect right now. If you were to lose everything you worry about today, your job, your possessions, even your routines, but still woke up tomorrow with your breath, your heartbeat, and your awareness intact, wouldn't that still be an extraordinary gift? Gratitude for life itself is the very first step toward true wealth. It teaches us that abundance is not something waiting out there in the future, it's already here, pulsing in every breath. And when we live from that awareness, each day becomes less of a burden to survive and more of a miracle to celebrate. Because the truth is, being alive in this moment is already enough. Gratitude for parents. No one arrives in this world by themselves. Each of us came here carried by love, sacrifice, and the unspoken labor of two people we call our parents. Whether your story with your parents is one of warmth or one of struggle, the truth is this: without them, you and I would not even be here, breathing, listening, learning, or searching for meaning. Think about it. From the very first moment, even before you opened your eyes, someone carried you, nourished you, and gave up their own comfort so you could have life. A mother's body became your first home. A father, in his own way, carried the weight of protection and provision. The sleepless nights, the unspoken worries, the years of care, even if imperfect, even if incomplete, are part of the invisible foundation of your life. The Buddha once taught that the debt we owe to our parents is immeasurable. Even if we were to carry them on our shoulders for 100 years, feeding them, clothing them, and caring for them, it would not equal the gift of life they gave us. Why? Because they gave us the chance to step into this human existence, this rare opportunity to learn, grow, and awaken. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but my parents weren't perfect. They made mistakes. Maybe they even hurt me. And that may be true. Parents are human too, they come with their own wounds, fears, and limitations. But gratitude doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything was ideal. Gratitude means acknowledging the root from which your life sprouted, no matter how imperfect the soil. When we practice gratitude toward our parents, something powerful happens inside us. Our heart softens, and our mind becomes lighter. We stop carrying so much resentment or expectation, and instead, we start to recognize the incredible fortune of simply having been given this life. That recognition alone plants seeds of peace within us. Let me share something personal. The days I take time to reflect on my parents, on their sacrifices, their mistakes, their humanity, I feel a deep shift in myself. I realize that my strength today comes not just from my own efforts, but from the countless silent efforts of those who walked before me. It's like standing on strong roots that keep me steady, no matter how stormy life becomes. And here's something interesting. People who cultivate gratitude toward their parents often find themselves more resilient, more compassionate, and even more successful. Because when your roots are strong, when you honor where you came from, you naturally grow higher and stronger, just like a tree grounded in rich soil. So let me ask you, when was the last time you simply said thank you to your parents? Not just on Mother's Day or Father's Day, but in an ordinary moment. If they are still alive, maybe it's a phone call, a smile, or even silent appreciation. If they've already passed, you can still whisper gratitude in your heart. They will feel it. And more importantly, you will feel it. True wealth begins with strong roots. Gratitude to our parents is not about debt, it's about alignment. When we align with the truth that we were given life through them, our mind shines brighter, and our blessings grow naturally. Because at the end of the day, one of the greatest fortunes we can have is this: to be a child who remembers, honors, and gives thanks. Gratitude for teachers and guides. On the journey of life, none of us truly walk alone. Along the way, there are people who hand us a light, sometimes through their words, sometimes through their example, and sometimes through their quiet presence. These are our teachers and our guides. And their influence, when we pause to recognize it, can shape the entire direction of our lives. Think back for a moment. Who was the person that first believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself? Who was the voice that challenged you, corrected you, or encouraged you to rise above your own limitations? Maybe it was a school teacher, a mentor at work, a spiritual guide, or even a stranger whose words stayed with you. Each of them, in their own way, placed a lantern along your path, so you could see a little further ahead. The Buddha himself taught the importance of this. Even before his enlightenment, he bowed with gratitude to the teachers who had guided him on different parts of his journey. Though their teachings did not bring him final awakening, he still honored them. Why? Because every step, every insight, every spark of wisdom contributed to the whole. It reminds us that gratitude is not about perfection, it's about recognizing the value of those who help us grow, even in small ways. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of criticism. We judge our leaders, our mentors, even our peers for what they lack. But here's the truth: a student who only looks for flaws will never move far. A student who cultivates gratitude, however, absorbs wisdom like fertile soil receiving the rain. Gratitude makes us receptive, open, and ready to learn. Let me share a perspective from my own life. Some of the people I'm most grateful for weren't the ones who made things easy. They were the ones who challenged me, who told me truths I didn't want to hear, who pushed me out of comfort and into growth. At the time, I resisted. But later, I realized they had given me one of the greatest gifts: the gift of being seen not just as who I was, but as who I could become. Science even backs this up. Studies on mentorship show that people who have guides in their lives are more likely to achieve goals, feel fulfilled, and maintain resilience during hardships. Gratitude toward these guides not only honors them, but also strengthens our own inner compass. So let me ask you, who are the teachers in your life that you haven't thanked enough? Is there someone whose words shaped you years ago, even if you didn't realize it at the time? Maybe it's time to reach out, or if that's not possible, to simply hold them in your heart with appreciation. Gratitude for teachers and guides is not about placing them on a pedestal. It's about recognizing that wisdom rarely grows in isolation. Every great tree rises because of sunlight, soil, and rain. And every one of us rises because someone, at some point, shared their light. True wealth isn't only measured in possessions, it's measured in the wisdom we carry. And wisdom is almost always a gift that began with someone else's generosity. When we honor that, when we bow in gratitude, just as the Buddha once bowed to his teachers, we carry that light forward, and in time, we too become a guide for someone else. Gratitude for adversity. If you think about the people you admire most, the ones who carry strength in their eyes, wisdom in their voice, and resilience in their steps, do you think they got there by living an easy life? Probably not. More often than not, their greatness was forged in the fire of adversity. True wealth is not the absence of challenges, it's the ability to face them without fear. Because those who are truly rich in spirit understand this, adversity is the greatest classroom we will ever sit in. Every difficulty we endure is like a teacher, sharpening our resilience, deepening our perspective, and chiseling away the parts of us that no longer serve our growth. The Buddha once said that suffering is not something to run from, it's something to understand. And when we understand it, we see that even pain has a hidden gift. Think about it, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest flames. Why would our character be any different? But let me be honest, it's not easy. When life throws loss, betrayal, illness, or failure at us, the natural reaction is resistance. We want to say, "Why me?" or "This isn't fair." Yet what if, in those exact moments, we shifted the question to something more powerful? What is this teaching me? I remember a time in my own life when I faced a season of deep uncertainty, work collapsing, relationships shifting, health struggling. At first, all I felt was fear and anger. But slowly, as I leaned into the pain, I realized it was forcing me to grow in ways I never would have chosen. It taught me patience I didn't know I had. It showed me strength I didn't believe was in me. Looking back now, I can honestly say, those hardships gave me gifts no comfort ever could. And here's something science has noticed too: psychologists call it post-traumatic growth. Many people, after facing great adversity, report becoming more compassionate, more focused on what truly matters, and more grateful for life itself. It's almost as if hardship doesn't just break us, it remakes us into something stronger, wiser, and more alive. So the next time suffering knocks on your door, instead of only saying, "Why me?" try whispering, "Thank you." Not because the pain itself is pleasant, but because you trust it is shaping you. Gratitude in adversity is like turning a storm into a teacher. And every storm, no matter how fierce, eventually passes, leaving behind clearer skies and a stronger you. Think about the challenges you've faced so far. Would you be the same person today without them? Probably not. Maybe that heartbreak taught you compassion. Maybe that failure pushed you into a new direction. Maybe that illness reminded you how precious health really is. This is why the truly wealthy in spirit are not those who live without obstacles, but those who can look suffering in the eye and still say, "Thank you for what you are teaching me." Because when you can do that, adversity stops being an enemy and becomes one of your greatest allies. So let me ask you, what is the hardest thing you've faced so far in your life? And what hidden gift might it have carried for you? The moment we shift from resistance to gratitude, even our wounds begin to shine with wisdom. And that, perhaps, is one of the deepest forms of wealth we can ever attain. Gratitude for the little things. Have you ever noticed how often we wait for something big to happen before we allow ourselves to feel grateful? We tell ourselves, "I'll be grateful when I get that promotion, when I buy that house, when life finally goes my way." But here's the paradox. If we can't appreciate the small blessings that appear each day, we may find that even when the big things arrive, they don't fill us the way we thought they would. Gratitude for the little things is like cultivating a secret garden within your heart. A stranger's smile on a stressful day, the warmth of sunlight streaming through your window, or even the simple comfort of holding a warm cup of tea, these are not insignificant details. They are the quiet miracles that sustain us, the overlooked treasures that make life feel alive. Buddhism often reminds us that happiness isn't hidden in some far-off achievement. Instead, it blooms in the present moment, in the things so ordinary we tend to dismiss them. Think about it, the ability to breathe deeply, to hear the sound of birds in the morning, to share a laugh with a friend. Aren't these experiences richer than most material possessions? I remember once, during a very stressful season of my life, I found myself rushing through each day, blind to the small joys around me. One morning, I was walking down the street, lost in thought, when a little child ran past me laughing with pure delight, chasing bubbles. For a brief moment, my mind stopped. I felt my own heart soften, and I thought, this tiny scene, is life giving me a gift. Nothing had changed in my external circumstances, but that single instant of presence filled me with peace. Here's the beautiful truth: when you train your eyes to see the little blessings, you'll never feel empty-handed. The person who waits only for the big reasons to be grateful may spend most of their life in dissatisfaction. But the one who bows inwardly to each small joy, a kind word, a shared meal, a gentle breeze, walks through life with an overflowing cup. So let me ask you, what are the small blessings that quietly touch your life every day? Is it the way your dog wags its tail when you come home? The aroma of coffee in the morning? The way your partner says your name? We often overlook these details, but they are the fabric of real wealth. The Buddha once said that a wise person sees value in all conditions, whether grand or humble. Gratitude for the little things is not about lowering our standards, but about raising our awareness. When we become aware, even a drop of water tastes sweet, and even a passing moment can feel eternal. If you want to feel truly wealthy, start here. Begin with the tiniest joys. Write them down, whisper thank you to them, or simply pause and smile. The more you honor them, the more your life begins to shimmer, not because anything outside has changed, but because you've learned to see. Gratitude for the little things is the soil in which deep happiness grows. And when happiness takes root, you'll realize you were never poor, never lacking. You've always had enough. Gratitude for community and interconnection. We often think of wealth as something we achieve on our own, our hard work, our intelligence, our ambition. But let's pause for a moment and ask, is anyone truly self-made? The truth is, no one becomes rich in isolation. Every success, every meal, every breath we take is supported by countless unseen hands. Take something as simple as a bowl of rice. Behind it are farmers who planted the seeds, the rain that nourished the fields, the truck drivers who transported the harvest, the shopkeepers who made it available, and the cook who prepared it. Even the soil, the sun, and the earth itself have played their part. When we sit down to eat, we are not just feeding ourselves, we are receiving the efforts of an entire community and the gifts of nature. Buddhism calls this interdependence. Nothing exists on its own. Just as a tree needs sunlight, water, and soil to grow, we too rely on an intricate web of conditions. Think about your daily life, the clothes you wear, the phone you use, the roads you drive on. Every single one of these is the result of countless people's labor and love. When we truly see this, gratitude naturally arises. Instead of feeling alone, we feel held. Instead of taking things for granted, we feel rich with connection. And this kind of wealth is not measured by numbers in a bank account, but by the depth of our awareness. I remember a time when I sat in a cafe, sipping a simple cup of coffee. As I held it, I thought, this cup carries the story of a farmer in another country who cared for the coffee plant, of workers who harvested and processed the beans, of sailors who transported them across oceans, and of the barista who brewed it with care. In that single cup was the whole world. That day, my coffee tasted more precious than gold. This awareness changes everything. Gratitude for community transforms competition into cooperation. Instead of asking, how can I win alone, we begin to wonder, how can we rise together? It shifts us from scarcity thinking, where others are seen as threats, to abundance thinking, where others are seen as allies. Let me ask you, when was the last time you paused to acknowledge the unseen community behind your daily life? The farmer, the teacher, the janitor, the nurse, the stranger holding the door for you. Every one of them is part of your story, just as you are part of theirs. Doesn't that realization make life feel richer? The Buddha often taught that to recognize interconnection is to recognize truth. Gratitude toward community is not just polite, it's awakening. When we bow to the web of causes and conditions that sustain us, we discover a wealth far beyond possessions, the wealth of belonging. And here lies a powerful secret. Once you realize you are supported by countless lives, loneliness loses its grip. You no longer walk alone, you walk with the universe. Gratitude becomes not just a feeling but a way of seeing, a way of living, a way of being wealthy in the deepest sense. So today, let us give thanks not only for what we hold in our hands, but also for the invisible network of love, effort, and kindness that makes each moment possible. For in this recognition, we discover a treasure greater than gold, the richness of connection. Gratitude for the body. How often do we pause to thank this body that carries us through life? In the rush of daily living, it's easy to focus on what we don't like, wrinkles, aches, extra weight, or limits we wish we didn't have. But what if, instead of complaining, we chose to see the body as a sacred companion, a vehicle for our spirit, patiently carrying us from birth to this very moment? Think about it, your feet have walked thousands of miles, carrying you to school, to work, to visit loved ones. Your hands have held, built, cooked, created, and comforted. Your heart has been beating since before you were born, without you ever needing to remind it. Isn't that incredible? We often take these miracles for granted until something goes wrong. The Buddha once taught that having a human body is one of the greatest blessings, because only with this body can we hear the Dharma, practice mindfulness, and grow in wisdom. The body isn't just flesh and bone, it's a temple of experience. Without it, there would be no laughter, no touch, no ability to hug someone we love, no chance to taste the sweetness of life. Let me share something personal. There was a period when I was constantly frustrated with my body, feeling it wasn't strong enough, or attractive enough, or energetic enough. But one day, while recovering from an illness, I realized, this body is not my enemy. It has been faithfully fighting for me, healing itself, and doing its best to keep me alive. That shift in perspective changed everything. I stopped criticizing and started caring. I began to eat, rest, and move not out of pressure, but out of love. And maybe this is the deeper truth. Gratitude for the body isn't just about saying thank you, it's about living in a way that honors it. When you stretch, exercise, or take a mindful breath, you are telling your body, I see you. I value you. Thank you for carrying me. That's wealth, because what use is money, status, or success if the body breaks down and we can't enjoy them? Here's a question for you. When was the last time you thanked your body, not for how it looks, but for what it does? For the countless functions happening every second that keep you alive. Imagine what would change if, each morning, instead of criticizing ourselves in the mirror, we greeted our reflection with gratitude. In Buddhism, the body is seen as a raft that helps us cross the river of life. It is not permanent, it will age, weaken, and one day return to the earth. But while we have it, we can treat it with kindness, compassion, and respect. If we shift from ownership, this is my body, to companionship, this is the friend that carries me, our relationship with it softens. We stop fighting, and start nurturing. So today, let us remember, wealth is not just about possessions. True wealth is waking up in a body that still breathes, still moves, still feels. Every step, every heartbeat, every breath is a gift. When we live in gratitude for this gift, life itself becomes richer. Gratitude for the present moment. Have you ever noticed how often we live in the next thing? The next meal, the next paycheck, the next vacation, the next milestone. It's almost as if our minds are wired to keep us chasing something just a little further ahead. And yet, those who are truly wealthy are not the ones constantly reaching for the next. They are the ones who can stop, breathe, and say, this moment, right here, is enough. The Buddha reminded us with simple yet profound words. The past is already gone, the future has not yet come. There is only one moment for you to live, and that is the present. Think about that for a second. The past is like a dream we can't step back into. The future is like a mirage that hasn't arrived. But the present, this breath, this heartbeat, this very moment of listening, that is real. Let me tell you a short story. I once met a woman who had spent her whole life building a career, planning for retirement, waiting for the day she could finally rest. But when she reached retirement, her health was too fragile to enjoy it. She told me, with tears in her eyes, "I kept postponing happiness for someday. I never realized that someday never comes, it's always today." That struck me deeply. Gratitude for the present moment is like holding a treasure chest in your hands and finally opening it, instead of waiting for another one to appear. When you sip a cup of tea slowly, feel the warmth in your hands, and truly taste it, that is wealth. When you listen to your child's laughter without rushing back to your phone, that is wealth. When you pause in the middle of a busy day to notice the sky, the breeze, or the quiet hum of life, that is wealth. And yet, many of us struggle with this. Why? Because our minds are restless. We replay regrets from yesterday, or we rehearse worries about tomorrow. But have you ever asked yourself, what if today is enough? What if this moment is already the gift I've been chasing all along? For me, learning this wasn't easy. I used to believe that success meant always moving forward, always achieving the next goal. But there was a moment during meditation when I simply noticed my breath. Nothing special, just breathing in, breathing out. And for the first time in a long while, I felt free. Not because my life was perfect, but because I realized perfection wasn't needed. The present was already complete. This is the paradox of wealth: the more you chase, the more it escapes you. But the moment you stop and give thanks for what is already here, the chair you're sitting on, the breath you're taking, the life flowing through you, you discover you've been rich all along. So here's an invitation: the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll be happy when," pause. Replace it with, "I'm grateful now, because," and see how your world changes. That shift, from lack to gratitude, from chasing to being, is the true foundation of abundance. The present moment is not just passing time, it is life itself. And when we learn to treasure it, we stop being poor in spirit. We become the wealthiest people alive, not because of what we own, but because of how deeply we live. Gratitude for those who hurt us. It may sound strange, almost impossible, to say thank you to someone who has hurt us. Our first instinct when someone wounds us is to build walls, to carry resentment, to replay the pain in our minds again and again. But what if I told you that those who hurt us can also become our greatest teachers? The Buddha once taught that hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. When someone causes us suffering, they unknowingly hand us a lesson in compassion, patience, and forgiveness. The question is, will we accept that lesson, or will we stay trapped in anger? Think back for a moment. Has someone in your life betrayed you, abandoned you, or spoken harshly to you? Of course, they left scars. But look deeper. Maybe that betrayal taught you the importance of honesty. Maybe their harsh words taught you how powerful kindness can be. Maybe the pain itself pushed you to grow stronger, more resilient, and more awake. I remember a friend who carried years of bitterness toward his father, who had been strict and sometimes cruel. For decades, that anger shaped his life like a heavy chain. But one day, during a retreat, he realized his father's flaws had taught him the value of gentleness, and his suffering had opened his heart to empathy for others. The moment he shifted from resentment to gratitude, the chain broke. He didn't excuse the harm, but he freed himself from its grip. That's the key. Gratitude for those who hurt us does not mean approving of their actions. It does not mean denying the pain. It means choosing to transform the wound into wisdom. It means saying, because of this suffering, I have learned to love more deeply, to forgive more fully, to see life with clearer eyes. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to finally let go of an old grudge you've been holding? Who would you be without the weight of that resentment? The truth is, anger binds us to the very people we want to escape from. Forgiveness is not about setting them free, it's about setting ourselves free. And gratitude is the highest form of that freedom. When you can look back at a painful chapter and say, "Thank you for shaping me, even through your darkness," you are no longer a victim of that story, you become its author. You turn your suffering into strength, your bitterness into compassion, your wounds into wisdom. This is why those who hurt us are hidden teachers. They polish the mirror of our heart until we see what truly matters. Without them, we might never discover the depth of our capacity to love, forgive, and let go. So today, take a moment. Think of someone who once hurt you. Instead of replaying the pain, try whispering softly, "Thank you. Because of you, I have grown." You may be surprised at the peace that begins to unfold. True wealth is not found in holding grudges. It is found in a heart so vast that even pain becomes a path to freedom. Gratitude for yourself. Sometimes, we spend our whole lives waiting for recognition from our parents, our partners, our friends, or even society. But how often do we pause, place our hands gently over our heart, and simply whisper, "Thank you," to myself? Think about it. Every single challenge you faced, every storm you walked through, there was one person who never truly abandoned you. That person is you. The sleepless nights where you held yourself together, the mornings you rose despite the weight of yesterday, the choices you made to grow even when it was painful, all of that is worthy of gratitude. We are often quick to thank others, our mentors, our loved ones, even strangers who helped us along the way. Yet we rarely stop to acknowledge the quiet strength inside us, the resilience that carried us through. Without this inner courage, nothing else would have been possible. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you looked at your own journey and said, "I'm proud of you"? Not in an arrogant way, but in a deeply compassionate way, like a parent thanking a child for trying, even when they stumbled. Gratitude for yourself doesn't mean ignoring your flaws or pretending you're perfect. It means honoring the fact that, despite mistakes, despite failures, you kept moving forward. The Buddha taught that no one can walk the path for us. Others may guide, but ultimately, every step must be ours. And that deserves to be cherished. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when I kept chasing validation, grades, achievements, approval. No matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. Then one evening, I sat quietly and reflected, what if the person I've been waiting for, to notice me, to thank me, has always been myself? That small shift changed everything. I began to treat myself not as a harsh critic, but as a companion on this long journey. And slowly, I felt a kind of wealth bloom within, a wealth that didn't depend on anyone else's applause. Gratitude for yourself is the root of inner abundance. Because when you truly thank yourself, you stop measuring your worth only by external success. You start to see the richness of your own effort, the beauty in your persistence, the courage in simply not giving up. So, I invite you right now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and remember one moment where you didn't quit, even when it was hard. Can you thank yourself for that? Can you bow, even silently, to the strength that carried you here? In the end, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is not more achievements, but compassion. When you are grateful for yourself, you are no longer chasing approval, you are resting in acceptance. That is the true abundance, the kind that cannot be taken away. So let us end with this. Place your palms together, and whisper softly, "Thank you, my dear self, for trying, for walking, for not giving up." That is where true wealth begins. Not out there, but here, inside you. Conclusion: the teaching on gratitude. We often think of wealth as something stored away, in banks, in vaults, in treasures locked behind doors. But true wealth, as the Buddha taught, has nothing to do with gold or jewels. It lives in the heart. A heart that knows gratitude is a heart that will never feel poor. Think about it. A person with nothing but gratitude can still smile, still find meaning, still radiate warmth. Meanwhile, Someone who hoards wealth, but lives without gratitude will always feel a hunger inside that can never be satisfied. Which one would you rather be? The Buddha once said, "One who is grateful and thankful is truly wise, and will enjoy blessings for a long time." This isn't just a teaching about morality, it's a practical truth. Gratitude changes the way we see the world. It transforms scarcity into sufficiency, loneliness into connection, and daily struggles into hidden blessings. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people walking the same road. One complains of the heat, the dust, the distance. The other notices the birdsong, the shade of a tree, the kindness of a stranger offering water. Both are walking through the same world, but their inner wealth is entirely different. Gratitude is what makes the difference. And here's the beautiful thing. Gratitude doesn't cost us anything. You don't need to wait until your life is perfect to practice it. You can begin right now, with the breath you're taking, with the people around you, with the small victories you've earned. Gratitude is like a seed. The more you water it, the more it grows, and soon it blossoms into abundance that no circumstance can take away. I want to invite you to reflect for a moment. Who or what are you grateful for today? Maybe it's the friend who checked in on you. Maybe it's the meal you just had. Maybe it's simply the fact that, despite everything, you're still here, breathing, alive. Take that moment, hold it gently in your heart, and let it remind you, you are already rich. True abundance is not measured by what fills our hands, but by what fills our hearts. A grateful person, even if they hold nothing in their pockets, walks through life with a lightness and freedom that money cannot buy. A person without gratitude, no matter how much they own, will always feel lacking. So let us close with this reminder: wealth is not in the treasure chest, it is in the thankful heart. Gratitude is the jewel that never fades, the fortune that grows the more we share it. And the simplest way to begin this journey toward inner wealth is with one sincere word: thank you. Say it now. Whisper it to yourself, to the people who shaped your life, to the world around you. Thank you. That is where true richness begins.